Good morning, everybody. I have had just too many requests from people to say, show me the Achacha trees. What's going on with the Achacha trees? Well, I haven't said anything about them because there's really nothing to say. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about the trees. Also, I've had some other requests from a few other people about, will you show me more of the trees you planted? I want to see more trees. And I said, okay, that's fine. I can do that. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about Achacha trees. We'll go on over and look at some koa trees. Hey, talk trees today. So right here is one of the better looking Achacha. There are 6 in a row right here. So we have plenty of them. The day that they begin to make fruit, I'm going to have all kinds of Achacha trees because I'll have seeds I can plant. But I can't tell you how long that's going to take. This one here has probably been the most vigorous of all. It really took on and made a flush in late summer of new branches. They're not even and equal, I guess, but they're pretty close. All of them, they're doing pretty well. I think perhaps they are a little bit sensitive to intense sunlight. I planted them right out here with no shelter whatsoever, and so they're having to put up with Puna sunshine. They seem to show some evidence, I think, in youth of sunburn, but the new foliage is looking pretty good. They're nowhere near as susceptible to sunlight as the original mangosteen. Garcinia mangostina, that baby boy, you put that out in any kind of sunlight when it's youth, it just dies. I had one 7 years shaded by some avocado and banana, and I finally went and removed some of the shading so that it could grow, and oh man, that thing just burned from top to bottom. It did recover and begin to grow with more light after a while. They do adjust. Anyway, here it is, but there's no flowers, no fruit, really nothing else very interesting happening, so I talked about the Achachas. I hope that gets you there. Right over here is the white jabuticaba. Plenty of pithrantha, I believe, is right. Anyway, it's a white jabuticaba. This was some of the seed that Joe Hewitt brought in from experimental stations down in Brazil. We can't do it anymore. Brazil nationalized their agriculture, from what I understand. They don't want to import the seeds to us guys anymore. And with the rapid ohia death here in Hawaii, jabuticaba is a murtis, so is our native tree. So because the ohia has a disease, we don't want any more murtis coming into the island, possibly carrying the disease or vectoring it. So what you see is what you get. Joe planted a lot of these. We sold a lot of them, and then mine actually turned around, and after 4 years in the ground, it fruited. Yeah, I had about 50 fruits on the lower end of the tree, and so I have a whole bunch of trees in the nursery. If anybody needs this white jabuticaba, I think it's quite amazing, personally. Well, come on down. They're small, but I got them. This right here is pretty new. I think the seed, if I'm not mistaken, I think Joe walked this by in about 2018, the seeds for this. This is Andia. It's a shrub from Africa that has a red fruit that to me is very similar to a kiwi. It's doing all right. Right over there, that's another one of the jabuticabas. It seems to be far slower than all the others here, but this is grandiflora. Okay, the big flower, jabuticaba. There's another new one right there, and that is the aburana, the upland abiu. It's a little more dense. I kind of like the fruit. It's pretty good. Here's a nice kaffir lime, the magroot or Thai lime. This is the one they use the leaf in Thai curry. It's very interesting, delicious flavor. There was a lady one day came by and asked me, "Bill, do you have magroot?" I said, "No, I don't. But if I had one, I'd make cuttings and sell them." And so she says, "I'll get you a cutting." Said, "Very good." I came back later in the week with a whole tree from Planet Hawaii. Nice lady. Nice lady. It's growing. Down the way over there is another new citrus. Ellen has Eureka lemon out back here, but she said, "Well, you planted it too far from the house. I got to walk, and that's a standard. It's big." So she bought a dwarf. And of course, lemon is not very dwarf, so on dwarfing rootstock, it's still getting pretty big. I believe I put that in about a year ago, barely. It's doing really well. And over here is a whole collection of citrus from 2016 and 17, most of it. Dancy on the end there. This one right here is the Fairchild. We call it a mandarin. It's actually a type of a tangelo. Here over the top of the Mysore raspberries there, that's Page, and boy, that's a tangelo hybrid. That's one of my favorites. And in the foreground is the massive Mysore black raspberry. This thing is vicious, thorny, incredibly rapid growing, and I have never seen a raspberry plant that could produce the amount of fruit that this thing. And it's so thorny, it even resists the birds a bit. I actually get almost maybe 80% of the fruit off this thing without covering it between the birds. The geckos actually are worse because they can creep up the stems and go to the back and bite the fruits. They like sweet stuff. The birds can only go towards the front of the thing and peck at them a bit. Go inside the bush to try to eat. They get so tangled up in those spines, they can't get loose. I found mini thorns with bird feathers hanging on them from this. Last thing right here is a peanut butter fruit. Ask me if I care. It seems to grow fine. I really have no interest in the fruit, personally. I don't think much of it. But here it is, and I'm raising it as a mother plant so I can have seeds, and eventually I will begin distributing peanut butter fruit. This one right here is very different looking than all my other jabuticabas. It's really pale and golden almost in color. Yeah, I guess that's its natural coloration. It's from Florida. It was brought in here as Florida seedless. You know, we're having nothing but trouble with avocado because of that darn avocado lace bug. But that over there is a new kahalui, grafted tree. Put it in within the last 12 months. It got attacked. I sprayed it with spinosad. It seems to have worked, and if you look close, I can see at least 3 spikes of flowering coming up on it. So 4, make it 4. Probably going to have a few avocados, poor little thing. This one right here is the Australian finger lime. It was Peter Bucci's that brought me a cutting one day. It grows really easily from cuttings. You'll see a few brown twigs sticking up the top there. That is what the Chinese swallowtail larva does to citrus. They like the tender shoots. They get on there and they eat all the bark off of them. And that's the way it looks. That big, tall Lombardy poplar looking citrus thing over there. That thing is Golden Nugget. That's one of the California breeds on a mandarin. I see there's one mandarin sticking out up there. It is slow compared to Page, Fairchild, Dancy. Definitely a slower tree to produce here, but it is starting. And the thing I don't care for about this tree is that it is exceedingly vertical. I'm not very fond of that idea, but it's the way it is. It just wants to grow that way. This guy right here is the peach jabuticaba. Now it seems to take quite a while to grow too. It's tangled up there with pigeon peas. I use pigeon peas here as chop and drop. This one here is another one of the more unusual jabuticabas Joe brought in. I think It's plenialata, in my recollection. I think that's right. It looks like a backwards yellow fig. That's really goofy. It's taking its sweet time too. This is going to be a while before this does anything, I think. And the guy right there is one of my best koa. Hawaiian koa is a hardwood here, native to the islands, the only place that it's native to. It's an acacia tree. That is where all of the original Hawaiian outrigger canoes, they carved them out of the trunks of this tree. It's very popular and rather famous for ukuleles, guitars, incredible high-end furniture. A really good koa log goes out at about $250 a board foot or so for the lumber, but it's got a lot of figuring in it. This is one of the better ones. It may be growing better because it's associated here on the fence line with my neighbor's property where there's been a long old growth of trees back here. My side is nothing but grass. I think there's probably some mycorrhizal fungi back in there that is helping this thing. Could be, because I do have a lot of trouble with them just flashing and dying here. Oh, and right there is kind of a pride and joy. That's the Cocobolo rosewood from Central America. Beautiful rosewood lumber tree with orange and black and red stripes in the lumber. Oh, it's gorgeous. I have a hairbrush from Cocobolo. Sometimes you see guitars made. I put in 5 of them back in 2005. This is the only one that survived because while we were in California, a lot of them got buried in the grass and died. But this one took and obviously is growing very well here. So growing Cocobolo, if you can get a hold of the seed, is, you know, possible here. Here's some more koas with some unusual hibiscus. We got koa trees scattered all over here. Like I say, though, I do lose a lot of them. I just lost very large ones. I'm working on lowland koa. I have lowland koa trees, and I'm going to start putting them in here and see how they work better than the highland koa. This guy right here is the purple star apple. It has not fruited yet, but my green star apples do fruit, and so go figure. But green star apple, which is almost the same except for color, but apparently not the same. The purples don't seem to want to fruit up here in any short time, but the green ones get going right away. I had fruit in 5 years from a seed on the green ones. I also think green ones taste better. This guy right over here is Longon, the dragon eye. And it is actually starting to produce a few blooms up there. It looks like a couple of small fruits hanging on it. That took its sweet time. Here is one of my better Chico Sapote trees. It's actually doing pretty well. I've fed it some lately. It's not bad. They are slow. Oh man, I don't know. I mean, this is a tree that could take 20-25 years to actually make a crop of fruit. But there it is, and it looks healthy. I have work to do. I got a pile of coffee right over there behind it that needs to get chipped, put down with chicken manure and some lime around the base of the tree to keep it a little happier. Here is another Chico Sapote. Basically same story. Goes back quite a ways. I cannot recall how long ago it was I planted these trees. They are really slow. That one over there is Mame Sapote. That's a little faster to grow, and it seems like it's finally taken hold well. We get a lot of foliage burn on it earlier, but it's looking pretty good now. I recently cut the center of the tree out, trying to fork it. Here's a pretty good jabuticaba. Got a lot of bloom. Some green fruit, a bit of green fruit in there. This turns from flowers to fruit so rapidly. It is really fast. There's a couple of them here side by side. Oh, here's some fairly presentable cacao that is potting at the moment. They're doing pretty well. They're growing out here in full sun. Most of my others are a little deeper in the shade. This one right here is a grafted Kari starfruit. It's got bud and bloom on it right now, and so this will be the first time it did that. It got awful tall before it started to flower. Most of my friends who bought these same trees from Planet Hawaii have short bushes that fruited out right away. Here in Mountain View, the trees got huge before they started to flower. Don't know. Climate, I guess. I have another one right over there. These trees seem to require more shading than I'd given them. They burn easily. They love heat. There's a lot of stuff I can grow here, but it doesn't grow worth a darn because it's cool up here. This is one of them. The tree's very, very tropical. I have one older one that's better looking. Oh, and right there is the Kayamana Lychee. That's one of the most popular lychee forms here on the island. It was done from an air layer, and it appears that it was done from a side branch on an air layer because the tree definitely totally grows sideways, no vertical growth whatsoever. I've noticed this with lychee, that side branch air layers tend to keep growing sideways. I'm looking at a distance, and I had noticed before, I think I see a flower stalk. We'll look at that. Yep. Hey, it started. I'm happy. Not one of my favorite fruits, but they grow pretty well here. This is black Suriname cherry. They grow all right. Make good hedges, you know, boundaries and stuff like that. As far as the fruit's concerned, I don't know. Tastes like diesel exhaust, resin or something as far as I'm concerned. Well, right over there next to the banana is a grafted Subel Sapote, the white Sapote. I've been having problems with attacks by lace bugs or thrips or something on this thing, and I'm having to use oil on it. I think right now we're pretty good, but it's been kind of slow to take off because, boy, they're eating hard at it. Here's another one of the trees we call Sapote. This is chocolate Sapote. It's actually a persimmon from Mexico, evergreen persimmon. They're very, very pretty trees. They really are. Just having one in your yard looks great. Took me a while to figure out how to use the fruit so that I enjoyed it. I've gotten there. I like the tree. They bloom and fruit early, so they're pretty useful. The whole downside of the thing, Chinese rose beetles will gobble these things. I had a crop of buds that probably would have ended up into a crop of fruit this year, but the rose beetles literally gobbled all the buds right off the tree. I've got a pathway lantern, solar pathway lantern mounted on top of the tree over there now. Having light for about 2 hours on a susceptible tree after the sun goes down will usually drive those critters away, and it's starting to work pretty well. The tree looks pretty good shape. Without the lights, the leaves would just be shredded from those things. I don't suppose anybody's overly impressed by looking at this, but I'm happy as a clam. This is a Fuyu persimmon. I believe this is the Emoto strain. I also have Jiro strain Fuyu here too. I love my Japanese crunchy persimmons. We had them in California. I grew fond of them while living there and don't want to live without them. And when I found out that you can plant them and grow them here, probably between roughly probably about 500 feet up to probably near 4,000 feet here on the island, these trees will produce. You do see some fruit in the farmers markets at times. That pathway lantern in the top is up there to keep away the rose beetles. I got a few fruits off it so far. Really hard to get these trees here. Oh, it's hard to get the trees. Nobody here on the island propagates or grafts these things. They're a tough job. We had to get them from California. They bring them from Dave Wilson there in the valley. And the place here, which is Paradise Plants here on the island in Hilo, can get you one of these, but you really got to be on top of it because they don't hold them. They won't not take prepay. If you ask them in July, what are you ordering, they'll tell you, and you can kind of put your name on a list with a phone number, so the day the trees arrive at their nursery from California, they will call you. And if you don't show up in the day, forget it. Your tree's gone. But, it's first come, first served. But they will notify you, and that's about the only way you're ever going to get one of these. And boy, they're worth it. Eureka lemon. Very tall. This is why Helen wanted a dwarf. Abiu. Amazonian fruit. A real easy one. Just a few years from a seed. Really good stuff. They're in flower right now. No fruit right in this minute. I think back in the woods over there is my ice cream bean. There are a few pods in it. There is some bloom in it. It got really messed up this year because my neighbor's got a whole lot of junkwood garbage trees on the other side of the fence over there. The gunpowder tree cracks, falls, drops on top of my stuff over here, smashes fences, smashed that tree bad. It broke off half of the tree when it came down. I still have managed to clear the damaged wood out of the top of my tree. This one right here is the big long on dragon eye. It's the tallest and the oldest one I have, but it has not started to bloom yet. It's so tall and scrawny, I have a feeling I'm going to get in there and whack away at that to change the shape pretty soon since it's not fruiting. Right here is clementine, the mandarin. It's a dwarf tree. I don't like dwarf trees here. The standards rut in better and do better. But it's coming along. It just requires a lot more attention for fertilizer on dwarf rootstock to get it to go. But it's starting to make fruit. This is a good fruit. I'm happy about it. I just wish the tree was more vigorous. Right next to it over here is Mineola on a standard rootstock. And it's big. It's big and it's covered in fruit. A big mess back there is pretty much a Rolinia tree, but it's either non-typical or it got crossed to custard apples. I don't know, but it's lost its points. It has bumps like custard apple instead. It produces pretty well here. It's messed up. One of the neighbor's trees fell on the top, cracked 2 major limbs which are hanging up there. And then there is also some Diploteuris cabrerana that one of the Kalapana hippies brought here and planted. That's one of the ayahuasca plants, and it had taken over my tree completely. And so I recently chopped it. I can't get it out of the tree, but it's hanging up there dead, but we got rid of it. Well, I see I got a Kari starfruit over here, a seedling that's flowering pretty well. This one's Valencia orange. Does well here, produces a standard juice orange. It generally has pickable fruit in it most of the time. That's the real advantage to this tree. Here you can see some of the funny fruit my Rolinia produces. No spikes, round bumps. Here's true mangosteen. Coming along, but tree must be 10-12 years old. On the other hand, this big old guy up here is rambutan. This one seems to be somewhat freestone. I made a big crop the year before. It didn't make anything this year. I'm assuming it will probably try again next year. It's being biennial, I guess. Over here next to it, you'll see mac nuts, mac nuts, and mac nuts, and mac nuts. I got mac nuts up and down all over this side of the property. This guy right here is an older and better looking mame apple. This is Pulasan. That's a rambutan relative. There is another one right there. They make a fruit, kind of looks like a blackberry. This pile of junk used to be a mountain apple. Ellen says, I want a new hoop house for orchids. So, well, right there's the mountain apple I left. It's blooming right now. They have gorgeous flowers. These are really pretty trees. This guy right here is one of the rain-proof mangoes, Lychee. It might. We don't know. It might. Old cacao in a shady spot. Growing right here underneath one of my better macadamia nut trees. which is growing under the edge of a giant killer kukui nut. This tree was a seed in 2009. Down the way over there is Inga edulis. That's the big ice cream bean. It's a fast-growing tree, huge, fixes nitrogen, helps the other plants grow. I am not fond of the fruit, but it's a useful tree. Underneath the shade of it there, we've got some dwarf Samoan coconut. There is a luolo, the Pritchardia palm, native Hawaiian palm. Behind it is the plant used to make furniture, rattan. I got a whole lot more cacao down here along the fence line. You can kind of get a sort of step back look at that kukui. 2009, honestly. These right here are exotic cacao. This is Theobroma bicolor, and the one behind it is the kupuasu. They're both chocolate cacao trees. Kupuasu is known for eating the pulp. Pulp's pretty good. It's kind of like macadamia nuts and pineapple or something. I don't know. It's unusual. Both of them have very hard, woody pods that are large, unlike regular cacao, and you can turn them into instruments and stuff. The big old guy right here is a green star apple, and I can see some small, round, pea-sized fruit up there, so we're starting to get a crop. That's dwarf mimosa right there. That's one of Ellen's collections. This is the palm for rattan furniture. Pretty looking thing, but oh, is it sharp. Not being real brilliant about palms. I don't know what this is. Ellen brought it in. It's in her flower garden. She likes them. There's another one over there, different type, clumping palm. This one over here is Dorset golden apple from the Bahamas. It has fruited, although erratically at any weird time of the year. But it does actually make some apples here, and they're not bad. There's a jackfruit tree. This one's been here a while. I have pruned the dickens out of it to try to keep it kind of a little bit shaped. So far, it hasn't made a single piece of fruit. We'll see. Now, back there near the shed on the right, we have mamaki tea. Next to it, chirimoya in its winter dormancy with leaves just starting to come back on the tree for the year. That guy with the red trunk over there is a sealing wax palm. Very, very pretty trees. This thing over here, half defoliated, is what happens when avocado lace bugs tear into your avocados. I used imidacloprid on this tree. I think I killed them. It is leafing back out, and I see flowers pushing, so I'm crossing my fingers. I'm tired of walking in circles. That's it. There's more trees. Maybe I'll get back to them later. That'll get you tree lovers started here. Come on down.